Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is Tuesday, and today we are going to add to your cave. All writings shared on this channel are copyright protected. So, that's not a worry. Now, before we dive in, let me restate our rough plot. And I shared this last time we wrote on the cave. Number 1, a resistance group makes plans to scout out the enemy's fortress or stronghold. 2, something goes wrong or astray during the scouting expedition, and one or more characters escape but stumble into or fall into a frightening cave. Number 3, the one or more characters try to get his or her bearings, or their bearings if we have more than one, and explore the cave. Then number 4, cut back to the rest of the resistance, or the people missing the person or people in the cave. 5, in the story, return to the cave scene or the exit if you found one and continue exploring. Does the cave or exit beyond the cave, hold secrets or clues to the enemy? What do you or does your main character find? Start weaving in the problem for your protagonist. What does he, she, or they need to know or be able to do to fight the antagonist? How exactly is the antagonist against your character or characters? Is there a spy or a potential spy? I mean, you got to think about these kinds of situations. Excuse me. If things are so dire and the enemy is just kind of killing you off and stuff, wouldn't you want to kind of go make a deal and say, I can tell you where they're hiding if you don't kill me, you know? So there's going to be people that have morals and ethics, and they're not going to give it up no matter what. You could be killing them or whatever. They're not going to give that up. But there's other people that would be like, I want to live, and I really don't care what side I am on. So you have to decide how your characters behave in your story. So is there a spy or a potential spy? So you can consider that, whether you want to have everybody on this side, and that side, on that side, and no crossover, or if you want to have somebody who crosses over. Then the other thing is, who is helping your protagonist, or at least who is on the protagonist's side. I know that you have movies and stuff like Rambo is just one Rambo and lots of enemies and stuff, but generally that's not how it works. Generally you have people to help the protagonist's side. If y'all have watched Rambo, y'all could probably tell me, oh yeah, so-and-so helped. They had the signal or whatever. I don't necessarily watch Rambo. I think I've watched one of them a long time ago. And I think there was a helicopter in the end that came to pick him up. But anyway, who's on the protagonist's side for us? Who is helping? We're not going to have a one-man show here. For most of us, you can if that's what you want. This is your creation, your story. Okay, number 7, start letting the reader know the powers, prowess, or abilities of the protagonist. And this could be while the protagonist is learning about these abilities or powers himself or herself. Sometimes that's really good with an unknown phenomenon, in my opinion, my humble opinion. If you're dealing with an unknown phenomenon, like the reader wouldn't really know this phenomenon, then instead of go through lengthy details of explaining this phenomenon, they can learn about it as the character learns about it, and it's an easier read. In my humble opinion, you don't have to share that view. Now, I told you that we are going to have a number for each part of the rest of the story, and that last week I gave you part 8, and this is part 9, and I'm not going to have an extra one. So part 8 will give you guidance to continue each time we add to the story. So number 8 is start the struggle. Excuse me. What hurdles does the protagonist have to leap to even face the antagonist? Remember, this is essential in most every plot. The protagonist has a struggle and has to grow. So far, this story has been just piecemeal. But when you go back and edit, you need to make sure everything is interrelated. Oh, you mentioned this. What is this? Do we need to know about this? Like, even the bones in that cave that we found. She put her hand down and she felt a bone and stuff. But then the beast chased the creature. The huge beast chased in a little creature and devoured it. So we kind of know about those bones. We don't have to explain those anymore. But if you've added some kind of detail in your story, you might need to know why you added that detail and stuff. And sometimes you have little details that don't really mean too much. They're just part of the story. But even a sunset or a sunrise, I don't remember which one, but in The Lord of the Rings, the elf looked and he saw the reds in the sky, and to him that meant that was going to be a blood-filled night or a blood-filled day or something like that. So that had meaning for him. So you have to decide how much meaning you're going to have. Those bones were there. They scared Solera. That's all that was. It was just part of looking at the cave and exploring it and seeing what's going on. So that's all that is for me. I'm not going to go back and look at those bones. But you need to, kind of see what's going on, and don't put in something that seems significant and then just drop it. If you put in something, a detail that seems significant, then make sure it's explained or ironed out later or filled out later or whatever. And don't forget that if you get stuck, which can happen, then step back and ask yourself questions. I have tried to ask questions after each part, so you start to understand questions. And I have a lot of unanswered questions here in this story. Today, when we're writing, we are going to continue with the struggle for our antagonist. And we're going to try to bring things, as the antagonist struggles and stuff, we're going to try to bring things together. We're not to the climax yet because we're only at 10,000 or so words, but we're going to try to bring things together to see what's going on. Okay, we'll pause the video and then write and then come back and I'll read what I wrote. Welcome back, writers. Let me read what I added to our story, or to my story. Solera felt her lungs straining, but then she also felt the dolphin swimming up. Finally, her head broke the surface of the water. The dolphin swam near a large boulder in the center of the water-filled chamber, and Solera reached out and grabbed it. And then she struggled to climb up on the rock. Her breathing was harsh, even though the dolphin had done all the work with swimming. Solera tried to catch her breath, and she looked around. There didn't seem to be any other place in the cavern that had land above the water. Solera sighed and looked at the dolphin swimming around. She felt like the dolphin was giving her a break. She wished she could talk with the dolphin and ask how long of a swim the next piece would be and how many more pieces there were, but she couldn't talk to the dolphin. Zalira sat cross-legged on top of the jagged rock, and she tried to slip into meditation again to see if she could receive any messages from the universe. Grant opened his eyes. He was still laying on his back, but this time he saw some light over to his right side. He carefully rolled to his stomach and swiveled to face the light. The place where he was now wasn't as narrow, and he felt he had enough room to crawl. But he saw bars and he heard noises, so he didn't want to raise up too much. His body ached, but it felt stiff, like he hadn't moved in a while. He did feel a little stinging sensation and felt that was probably where the lasers blasted him. But the stinging was closer to his back, and he wouldn't be able to see anything. He did glance around to see if there was any spots of blood, and he didn't immediately see any. He slowly and quietly drug his body closer to the bars. It seemed from the bars he could look down into some type of room that looked like a lab. He saw equipment and machines of all sorts. Then he saw Chip's body on a table with electrodes attached all over. Grant scanned the room until he also saw Jack's and Tom's bodies. None of the three seemed to be moving. Grant wasn't sure if he could see a chest rise and fall from this distance or this angle, but he had looked. Then some scientists came in the area. They wore the white lab coats, and there were creatures walking beside each one. The creatures were carrying clipboards or other things. Grant watched for a few minutes as the scientists tried different things to the bodies. Grant didn't know what exactly they tried, but he thought at one point they were pumping electricity into Jack's body. Grant sighed, and he pushed himself back away from the high-up window. He didn't want anyone to see him. He briefly wondered why he had jumped or linked to this location. Was he not able to jump out of the fortress? He didn't know. As he pushed back, he felt his hand hit a liquid. He looked at his hand, and there was some blood on it. He thought his movements had probably opened up his wound, but he didn't know for sure. However, if he had bled the entire time, he would feel a lot weaker right now. Commander Thurnell felt like several people were missing from the compound, so he started going down a list to find people. When he couldn't find Commander Nyson, he felt the people were on a mission and no one had briefed him on it. That was how they worked in the underground. No one knew everything to protect certain missions if Maldrake's people captured anyone. The odd thing was that some of his group weren't there either. So Commander Thurnell started looking through their mission logs to see what he could ascertain. Commander Nyson's group came to the marshes, and he stopped the group. He laid out the map and got a few scouts. He told them where they ultimately hoped to go and hoped that they could find the best way through the marshes. Some more of the group set up a perimeter and posted watch, while the rest sat to rest. The rest sat to rest. Missant started to think of the message she received. She dug in her bag and pulled out her journal. She read the entry a couple of times, and then she focused on, "Do not come yet. There's a massive beast where I fell in the cave, and there are gnomes in here who don't mean me harm yet." Missant closed the journal and went to look at the map. The other girls that had been in her room gathered round. Missant asked about where Commander Nyson estimated Zalira exiting the compound. Then she ran her finger in a straight line to the trees. She looked at Commander Nyson and asked, "Do we know anything about these woods? Are there, She didn't want to say creatures or beast. She thought quickly. Bears or wolves in these woods. Brambert walked over to listen in. What about our equipment? Asked Kilry. How far can Maldrake's people pick up our equipment? You aren't backing out? Asked Brambert. No, said Missant. No, replied Kilry. We just want a little more information, put in Teresa. Teresa. Sha. I like the way I've spelled it. I can't pronounce it yet. I'm playing around with things. Commander Nyson spoke into his walkie-talkie and asked the scouts to hold up and come back a minute. Commander Nyson looked at Missant. Tell me what you know, because you're not usually this nervous. Started Missant. I don't really know anything. I had a dream. In the dream, Zalira was out, but she fell in a cave or something. Missant thought quickly as she glanced at the girls. Which doesn't make sense with the marshes. How can there be a cave underground? Some parts of dreams aren't to be analyzed, put in Commander Nyson. What else? Missant glanced at the girls, but they knew everyone was watching, so they didn't nod. Missant said, I remember two more things. One, a massive beast, and the second thing was gnomes. Commander Nyson glanced at Brambert, and he motioned the remaining scouts to their circle. The returning scouts to their circle. Commander Nyson pointed to where Missant had traced a line to the woods, and he drew his finger in a circle. We might be looking for a cave in this area. Do not enter the cave. Missant almost repeated that Zalira fell in, but she didn't. She did receive. Hey, Missant, did you get my message? I'm out of the cave. Well, in a way I am, but there is barely any land in the second one. A dolphin helped me. Missant jumped back as Brambert bumped her arm. What's with you? Asked Brambert. Missant looked around the circle. I don't think we should go near the cave. She put her hand to her face and groaned. Brambert was going to tap her again, but Commander Nyson stopped him and shook his head no. Missant plopped to the ground with her head in her hand, and her journal was still in the other hand. She thought, what happened to the beast or the gnomes? Missant received a lot of joy and exuberating thoughts. Awesome! You received the thoughts! Thank you, Koshwaldish! Commander Nyson shushed everyone. He felt he knew what was going on. Brambert was a little impatient, but he saw the worried look on the other girls' faces. Missant thought, you are not making sense. We have a rescue party. We are about to scout the marshes to see the best way through. She received, no, don't come. The dolphin will help me out. Once I'm out, I'll try to think my location. Missant thought, what about the beast and the gnomes? Zalira thought, the gnomes look like children, and as far as I know, they are still in the cave, but they can walk through shields. The beast, I never want to see the beast again. The gnomes want me to eat poisonous mushrooms. I'm resting, and the dolphin will help me. I think the universe said 2 more legs of the journey to get out. Missant sighed, and she didn't receive anything else. She looked up and around, and everyone was standing around her. She was completely embarrassed. Missant stood up and faced Commander Nyson. She glanced at the other girls. I didn't dream things. At least, I don't think I did. But receiving thoughts from someone else is rather a bizarre concept for me. Commander Nyson motioned to where she had sat and said, you were receiving thoughts just now? Missant slightly nodded her head. Then she told of the thoughts. In the end, Commander Nyson wanted to know where the entrance of the cave was so they could mark the map. And he reassured Brambert that they were still searching for Zalira. Then he told everyone the stories he had heard as a boy about gnomes and how they like to trick or deceive people. He told them that they still didn't have to believe that gnomes existed, but they would have to test things if they found any of their own people. The subject of tattoos came up because some still thought that was a good way to identify people. But they still didn't know what Mandrake was doing to people, so a tattoo may or may not help. Okay, writers, I think that is good for today. I'm enjoying this story, and I feel I could add more. I want you to go back to the scene. Then I want the next scene to go back to Grant, and then Zalira again with the dolphin. But I will save that for next time. I hope you're having as much fun as I am with adding to your cave. Don't forget to send your writings to WritewithMykela@gmail.com. And of course, everything is copyright protected, so there's no worry for you if you send in your writings for me to read on the channel. I look forward to reading about your caves. And I know it's going to be different because you are different from me, and you might spot something else in the cave. You might spot spiders or bugs or something in the cave instead of bones. So it's just fun stuff. And the exchange makes it even more fun, because sometimes writers are kind of lonely people and they don't have people to cheer them on or whatever. So this is a way for you to get your writing to somebody else and to be part of a community so that we're not so lonely. Leave a comment below on your total word count so far. My total so far is 10,655. Join me Friday for Eleni's Pride, Breaking Point, Chapter 14, Hidden Linkers. Join me Tuesday for Talk About Jargon, or to add to our stories that started with a setting, or a little of both. Sometimes the jargon is short, so maybe we can do both. Don't forget to visit my website, WritewithMykela.com, and read some character bios, and send your writings and chapters to WritewithMykela@gmail.com. And leave comments on your favorite characters. It could be your favorite characters for this story. Maybe you like Zalira. Maybe you like Missing. Maybe you like Brambert. I don't know. Just who are your favorite characters so far? Remember, as a writer, you want to have some kind of emotional attachment between your reader and your story. So your reader needs to get emotionally attached to one or more characters. And it can be a love, it can be a hate, it can be an anger, it can be joy, or just fun, just however you get attached to those characters. So let me know your favorites. And if you have one that you really hate so far, then let me know that as well. I don't think any of you read Mykela, so you probably don't hate too much. But maybe you don't like Mandrake or something. Or maybe, let's see, in Tahia, maybe you didn't like Pummeled Stone. And at least you thought you didn't like him until you met the wizard. So we'll see that, what y'all's comments are. If you hit like and subscribe and the bell notification, then we will continue to write together. And other people will have a higher chance of finding this video in this channel. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.